The biggest claim in American archaeology has been frozen for 33 years, and not because of the bones, not because of the dating, not because nobody has looked. It's frozen because of a machine that was sitting 9 feet above it. And the thing that could break it loose is a hole in the ground 40 miles up the coast, one that has already been dug once. Summer 2015. Carlsbad, California. A grading crew is cutting into 60 acres of an old rock quarry, clearing ground for houses. The blade comes up with bone. Work stops. Paleontologists come in and start pulling material out of the cut by hand. What comes out over the next weeks is not one animal. It's a community. At least 2 Columbian mammoths, an animal that stood 13 feet at the shoulder, a horse, turtles, and a bison, skull and partial skeleton, only the second bison ever recovered in San Diego County. The deposits are Ice Age, put at 50,000 to 200,000 years old. The curator who comes out to look is Thomas Demir of the San Diego Natural History Museum. At that moment, Demir has spent 23 years quietly working on a different set of broken bones from a freeway job 40 miles south in National City. 2 years later, those bones would detonate. November 1992. State Route 54 is being widened. Richard Cerutti, a field paleontologist, is monitoring the work, the legal requirement to have a scientist watching when a bulldozer opens old ground. He spots bone and tusk in the cut. The excavation runs 5 months. What comes out is one young mastodon. Tusks, molars, ribs, vertebrae, limb bones, more than 300 fragments. The limb bones carry spiral fractures. The pattern bone makes when it snaps while it's still fresh. 2 femur heads sit side by side, one face up, one face down. A tusk stands nearly vertical in the sediment, and there are 5 large cobbles in among the bones, carrying impact marks and use wear. The sediment around them is fine sandy silt, quiet water. The nature paper calls those stones hydraulically anomalous. The water that laid down that silt could not physically have carried them in. Uranium-thorium dating, run by James Paces of the United States Geological Survey, put the burial at 130,700 years, give or take 9,400. The team published in Nature in 2017. Their conclusion? An unidentified species of Homo broke those bones with hammerstones and anvils. Now the flaw. The bone bed was 9 feet down in unnamed Pleistocene stream deposits, found during construction of a drainage system. The machine working that cut was a Caterpillar 235C excavator. Gary Haynes, an archaeologist at the University of Nevada, Reno, said it plainly the same year. Heavy equipment broke those bones. Then Patrick Farrell published in Paleo America. Farrell is not an archaeologist. He is a licensed California land surveyor with more than 30 years in road construction, 19 of them with Caltrans. He went to the right-of-way maps, the construction plans, and the site photographs, and concluded the damage came from the construction itself. You cannot separate the discovery from the machine that made it. That is the whole problem. This channel takes the stories that get 1 paragraph in an article and spends an hour underneath them, the sources, the disputes, the parts that got cut. If that's what you want more of, subscribe. The team's answer to the machine argument is chemical, and it's good. Most of the broken surfaces are coated in thick crusts of pedogenic carbonate, a mineral that precipitates out of soil over long spans of time. It cannot grow on a break made in 1992. The breaks are ancient. That answer convinced someone the team did not recruit. In 2018, Ruth Gruen, professor emerita at the University of Alberta, a specialist in the peopling of the Americas, went to look at the material herself. Her published conclusion: the heavy machinery hypothesis is invalid because the carbonate proves the breakage is genuinely old. And then she wrote the sentence that explains the last 9 years. The site, she said, remains an anomaly. More support followed. In 2020, a study using Raman and optical microscopy identified bone microresidue on 2 of the cobbles, chemical traces of bone, on the stones. It moved nobody. Because the real objection was never only about the machine. It's that a single locality with no napped stone tools, no cut marks, no hearth, and no human remains is being asked to outweigh the entire genetic and fossil record of how our species left Africa. 10 archaeologists led by Todd Brage made that case in print the same year. Desmarais himself has conceded the structural point. His words, "One site does not a new paradigm make." And the French prehistorian Eric Boeda and 2 colleagues gave the only real instruction anyone has offered. The finding, they said, calls for a coordinated effort across North and South America to go looking for other contexts of that age. Every road out of this runs through a second site, not a second analysis of the first. So what would a second site need? Last interglacial sediments. Fine, low energy fill. The kind of quiet deposit where a foreign cobble has no business being. Megafauna. And the one thing the first site can never have: no heavy machine anywhere near the bone bed before a scientist reaches it. A freeway job cannot give you that. A trench is narrow, it's blind, and the machine always arrives first. A quarry can. Aggregate operations strip material in horizontal lifts across acres over years. The ground opens in plan view instead of a slot, and because these are permitted operations, the monitoring is written in before the first cut. Which brings us back to Carlsbad. That site is 156 acres in the Buena Vista Creek Valley. Roughly 100 were mined for decades. A rock plant, a concrete batch plant, and an asphalt plant, before the operation shut down and the land was reclaimed. That is the ground that gave up the mammoths. But the mined 100 acres is not the interesting part. The western 56 acres, the strip they call the Panhandle, were never mined at all. And under a settlement agreement, roughly 72 acres of that valley went into permanent natural open space. Which means the same Ice Age valley fill that produced mammoth, bison, and horse continues sideways into ground that has never had a machine on it, and is now protected from ever having one. That is the one configuration where you could open a last interglacial bone bed slowly, by hand, from the first centimeter down, with nobody able to say afterwards that a bulldozer did it. 3 things have to be said, or this is just a nicer sounding version of the thing I'm criticizing. First, no published paper proposes this. No archaeologist has named that valley as a Cerutti test. That is my argument, not a finding. Hold it to a lower standard than the papers I've cited. Second, Quarry Creek has produced nothing archaeological. No cobbles with impact marks, no percussion-broken bone. So far, it is an ordinary, very good Ice Age fossil locality, and its age is a range, 50,000 to 200,000 years. That range contains 130,000. It does not pin it. Third, and heaviest, that valley is not empty ground waiting for science. El Salto Falls on Buena Vista Creek is sacred to the San Luis Rey Band and the Luiseño people. And there are village sites in that valley going back roughly 9,000 years. The open space exists because residents and a preservation group fought the development and settled. Digging there is not a scientific decision. It belongs to the people who have spent decades trying to keep that ground closed. So the honest version of my own title is not that this quarry will settle it. It's that this is the shape of the place that could, and the reasons it hasn't been opened have nothing to do with archaeology. Here is what every side now agrees on. A mastodon died near National City about 130,000 years ago. Its limb bones broke while they were still fresh. And those breaks are old, sealed under carbonate that took millennia to form. What nobody has settled is what broke them. 33 years, one site. And the answer is not coming out of a drawer at the museum. It comes out of a place where the ground gets opened slowly, on purpose, by people who knew exactly what they were looking for before the first cut went in. So, if a second site turned up tomorrow, with the same broken bones and the same 5 stones, and still no stone tools at all, would that be enough for you? Tell me in the comments.